Joining us now is Republican Congressman Mark Meadows of North Carolina. He's also the chairman of the Freedom Caucus. Joining us. Great to speak with you once again. Let me ask you here, first of all, just sort of how concerned you are about the way this is structured. What are the open questions that you have going forward as you read this, as you look ahead to this markup next week?
Well, obviously, we're excited about the rollout, and so even with some of the unanswered questions or perhaps work that still needs to be done, I think the Ways and Means Committee has done an outstanding job of trying to put something forth that really is pro-growth. It's all about creating jobs, so the market should respond very favorably to that. You mentioned the 39.6% top rate. Philosophically, that is something that I've had a hard time adopting to. I mean, really, when we're looking at lowering taxes, we should do it across the board and not necessarily pick out one certain segment. But that being said, I don't see that as being a stumbling block to getting that done. As we look at some of the pass-throughs, I want to make sure that people don't game the system, but that it applies to everybody, that small businesses actually get to use this new pass-through rate that is, at 25%. And making sure that what we do is put people back to work and let the economy go again. So I'm very optimistic. There is still some work to do, and hopefully you'll see in the markup next week, as well as final passage here in a couple of weeks in the House, that those things have been addressed.
And what about some of the larger business provisions here? The cut in the corporate tax rate, the repatriation tax of as high as 12%. Do you think we're going to see some rejiggering adjustment on those rates?
Well, I think what we're looking at, I think the corporate stays at 20%. That's what we've been advocating for, that it should be as aggressive as possible, but no higher than 20%. Indeed, that's what came out. I think on the repatriation rate, we're still looking at that, but a bifurcated repatriation rate is something that we felt like was appropriate. So those dollars that have been invested get one rate. Certainly the cash over there gets another. In the end, I think where we end up with all of this is something that will be good for multinationals. There is still some work to do on our foreign trade and multinational territorial tax system. I think there's some adjustments that we might see there. But I think it's good news for America, good news for jobs, and good news for corporations. We're going in a direction that would actually be well received, not poorly received.
Congressman, let me ask you about the state and local tax deduction. You come from Western North Carolina, right outside Asheville, and I wonder how many of your constituents care enough about this that they want to see that preserved. In other words, you've got some members of Congress, some colleagues really fighting for this. Is this a mountain that you intend to die on?
Well, we're actually in the mountains. We're not going to die on this particular issue. I think it's been addressed in a very appropriate way right now. It's a cap at $10,000 on property tax deduction. That will not necessarily be well received in some areas of New Jersey and New York. But in terms of North Carolina and my district and really all of North Carolina, I don't see that as being a stumbling block at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I think they will see their ultimate final tax bill go down, as the vast majority of all Americans will. But I think the compromise that's in there is a good one for our New Jersey and New York and perhaps California colleagues. And in the end, we'll get there as long as that remains in the bill.
And Congressman, just quickly here, while we're on the topic of geography, earlier we were talking about Albemarle, which is a specialty chemical company, not in your district, it's in the Charlotte area, but it's falling today. The stock's falling over concern about an elimination of the electric vehicle credit that would then cause a drop in demand for lithium. Measures like that affect specific companies, I'm curious your position on.
Obviously there are going to be certain tax credits and tax deductions that have been in the current code where that will not translate out. And whether it's this company in North Carolina or other companies across the states, at this point, the free market always wins out. So government subsidies don't provide a long-lasting result.